so proud. So proud.
And that doesn't scratch the surface of how Dion Moon feels when she talks about the impact her daughter, Officer Ariana Preston, had on so many people.
So thankful that she was able to share her light to so many people. She'll never get that opportunity. I'll never get to see her get married, have kids, buy her first house.
The 24-year-old officer was shot and killed during an alleged robbery as she arrived home from her shift on May 6, 2023. The pain of her loss still raw as ever, but the support and stories shared by the community and fellow officers, something Preston's family finds solace in.
Pay attention to this car approaching. That, Ariana Preston was coming back from her Saturday shift. She turned off her car headlights. Still in her police uniform, she steps out of her car and crosses Blackstone Avenue towards her family home. She doesn't know she's being watched. Now they've spotted Officer Preston. A dark car pulls up and stops. Then at least one person jumps out and they fire multiple shots at her. Preston tried to reach for her weapon. 11 shots in total. She fires back, fighting for her life. But she's outnumbered. Within seconds, she's hit twice, once in the face, once in the neck. They jump back into the stolen car and disappear into the night, leaving Officer Preston bleeding on her front lawn. What drives 4 teenagers to turn a night of robberies into a tragedy that shakes an entire city? And how did a young officer with dreams of joining the FBI become their final target? Welcome to Crazy Dark Files. Right now, there are thousands of police officers like Ariana who put on their uniforms every day, not knowing if they'll make it home safely. If you want to help spread awareness about youth violence, gun crime, and the importance of supporting our communities and law enforcement, then please like this video, share it, and subscribe to this channel. Your action now could help save a life or inspire someone to choose a better path. To understand the weight of this tragedy, you need to know who Ariana Preston really was. Ariana was born and raised in Chicago, the city she loved and chose to serve. She grew up in a close-knit family with loving parents and 2 younger siblings who looked up to her. Her mother, Dion Moon, described her daughter as someone who poured everything into the people she loved. Friends and family called her a ray of sunshine, the kind of person whose smile could brighten any room. From a young age, Ariana was a goal setter. She wrote down everything she wanted to achieve, and she worked hard to make it happen. Her mother said she was a goal setter. She wrote everything down that she wanted to do, and she did everything she wanted to. After high school, Ariana attended Illinois State University, where she earned her degree. But she didn't stop there. She enrolled at Loyola University's School of Law, pursuing a Master of Jurisprudence. She was just days away from graduating when her life was taken. Her mother would later accept that diploma on her behalf, a heartbreaking moment that should have been a celebration. Ariana's dreams went beyond policing. She wanted to join the FBI. She saw law enforcement as a stepping stone to making an even bigger impact on justice and public safety. For 3 years, Ariana served with the Chicago Police Department, assigned to the 5th District at 727 E 111th Street. She wore her badge with pride. Her colleagues described her as passionate, hardworking, and deeply connected to the community she served. Commander Tyrone Pendarvis, who worked closely with Ariana, said, "She connected with everyone. She was empathetic to everyone's problems, regardless of what role they were in. Everyone who came into contact with her will be affected by this news, and she will truly be missed."
The person I knew was full of energy, full of life.
Ariana had a special gift for calming tense situations. She could de-escalate conflicts like no other officer in her district. Even the people she arrested respected her. In fact, on the day she died, Ariana had made one arrest during her shift. When that person found out what happened to her, they broke down crying. Commander Pendarvis said. That speaks to the credit of Officer Preston. The Fraternal Order of Police honored her with a statement that read, Ariana, just like Officer Vasquez Lasso, was a shining example of the future of our department. The loss of such youth, grace, and determination will leave a void felt forever. Everyone that knew her says they are better people because of it. The National Association of Colored Women's Club posted a photo of Ariana, saying Ariana was a light whose smile brightened any room. She continued to lift as she climbed by serving and protecting her community as a Chicago police officer for the last 3 years. The night of May 5, 2023 started like any other Friday in Chicago, but for 4 teenagers, it would become a night of violence that ended in murder. It all began with a simple request. Yaquan Buchanan's girlfriend called him. She needed money for a barbecue. Instead of finding a legal way to get cash, Buchanan had another plan. Shortly after midnight, his girlfriend and another woman picked up Buchanan, Joseph Brooks, Travell Breland, and 16-year-old Jalen Frazier in a Dodge Avenger. All 4 teens were dressed in black. They wore face coverings, and they were armed with handguns, some with extended magazines. Their plan was simple: rob people at gunpoint. Around 12:15 a.m., the group spotted a 33-year-old woman parking her car near the 900 block of East 46th Street. She had just gotten out of her vehicle when 4 masked figures surrounded her. They pointed guns at her head and demanded everything she had. They took her Louis Vuitton belt, her cell phone, her credit cards, and other personal items. Then they disappeared into the night. But they weren't done. Less than an hour later, the group decided they needed a different car, something stolen that couldn't be traced back to them. They found a red Kia Forte parked in the 4700 block of South Indiana Avenue. They stole it at gunpoint. The 2 women stayed behind in the Dodge Avenger while the 4 teens took off in the stolen Kia. Now they had a getaway car, and their confidence was growing. The group drove to the 10,000 block of South Wallace Avenue. There they saw 2 women standing outside a home, talking. One was 62 years old, the other 29. The teens jumped out of the Kia, guns drawn. They shoved both women to the ground and robbed them at gunpoint. They stole a coach bag, a cell phone, and other belongings before speeding off again. Minutes later, they spotted another target, a man who had just parked his Tesla in the 9100 block of South Merrill Avenue. The teens surrounded him, took his cell phone and his Tesla key, then tossed both items aside as they left. By now, the group had committed multiple armed robberies in less than 2 hours. They were on a rampage looking for anyone they could victimize. And then they saw Officer Ariana Preston. It was around 1:40 a.m. Ariana had just finished her shift at the 5th District. She was still in her police uniform as she drove home to Avalon Park. She parked her car in front of her house near 80 Surface and Blackstone, exhausted and ready to rest. The teens in the stolen Kia were cruising the area looking for their next victim when they saw Ariana, a single woman sitting in her car. They made their decision. They circled the block. Ariana stepped out of her vehicle, unaware of what was about to happen. The Kia pulled up. 3 of the teens jumped out, all armed. They ran toward her, guns raised. Ariana saw them coming. She reached for her service weapon. At 1:42 a.m., gunfire erupted in the quiet neighborhood. ShotSpotter, the city's gunshot detection system, picked up the sound immediately. 11 9M shell casings would later be found at the scene. Ariana fired back. 2 shell casings from her firearm were recovered, proving she fought for her life. But she was outnumbered and outgunned. One of the suspects had a weapon with a switch attached, turning it into an automatic firearm. Ariana was hit at least twice, once in the face and once in the neck. She was also grazed by another bullet. As she fell, one of the teens grabbed her service weapon and ran. All 4 jumped back into the stolen Kia and sped off, leaving Ariana bleeding on her front lawn. Her Apple Watch detected the impact and sent an alert to police dispatch labeled as a traffic crash. A 4th District officer responded to the scene, found Ariana, and immediately rendered aid. He rushed her to the University of Chicago Medical Center in his squad car, but it was too late. Officer Ariana Preston was pronounced dead. 20 minutes after the shooting, the stolen Kia was found in the 7200 block of South Rhodes Avenue. The teens had set it on fire using lighter fluid, trying to destroy the evidence. But they left behind more than they realized. The moment Ariana Preston stepped out of her car, she had no idea her life was about to end. She was tired. It had been a long shift at the 5th District, and all she wanted was to get inside her home and rest. She was still wearing her police uniform, a clear sign that she was law enforcement. But to the 4 teens in the stolen Kia, that didn't matter. The Kia pulled up near her home. The engine idled for a moment. Then 3 doors swung open. Travel Breland, Joseph Brooks, and Yaquan Buchanan jumped out, all dressed in black with face coverings. Each one carried a handgun. One of the weapons had a switch attached, a device that turned the semi-automatic pistol into a fully automatic weapon. Jalen Frazier, the youngest at just 16 years old, stayed inside the Kia. The 3 teens ran toward Ariana. They moved fast, closing the distance in seconds. Their intent was clear. They were going to rob her. Ariana saw them coming. She recognized the threat immediately. These weren't just random people approaching her. They were armed, masked, and moving with purpose. She reached for her service weapon. But before she could fully react, the shooting started. At least 2 of the suspects opened fire. The sound of gunshots shattered the quiet night. Muzzle flashes lit up the darkness as bullets flew toward Ariana. She didn't freeze. She didn't run. She fought back. Ariana returned fire, pulling the trigger twice. 2 shell casings from her weapon were later found at the scene, proof that she stood her ground and defended herself. But she was outnumbered. The suspects kept shooting. The weapon with the switch fired rapidly, spraying bullets in her direction. Ariana was hit. 1 bullet struck her in the face, another hit her in the neck, a 3rd grazed her body. She collapsed onto her front lawn. Even as Ariana lay wounded, one of the suspects ran toward her. He grabbed her service weapon from her side and took it. Then, all 3 teens sprinted back to the Kia. Doors slammed shut, the car screeched away into the night, leaving Ariana bleeding and alone. At 1:42 a.m., ShotSpotter detected the gunfire and sent an alert to the Chicago Police Department. 11 9mm shell casings were fired in total during the confrontation. But there was a problem. There was a backlog in the district. Officers were tied up with other calls. The response was delayed. Ariana's Apple Watch also detected the impact of her fall. It sent an automatic alert to police dispatch, labeled as a traffic crash. This alert prompted a 4th District officer to respond to the scene. When the officer arrived, he found Ariana lying in her front yard, still in uniform, barely clinging to life. He immediately began rendering aid, trying to stop the bleeding. Realizing the severity of her injuries, the officer made a quick decision. Instead of waiting for an ambulance, he lifted Ariana into his squad car and rushed her to the University of Chicago Medical Center. Doctors and nurses worked desperately to save her, but the damage was too severe. Officer Ariana Preston was pronounced dead. Meanwhile, the 4 suspects were trying to cover their tracks. They drove the stolen Kia to the 7200 block of South Rhodes Avenue, just a few miles from the crime scene. They poured lighter fluid over the car and set it on fire.
Defendant Brooks stated that all the defendants were armed and that they ran up to victim 6, Officer Preston. He further admitted that the officer reached for her gun and that he shot first towards her. They burnt the Kia using lighter fluid.
Flames consumed the vehicle, destroying fingerprints and DNA evidence. But they made mistakes, and those mistakes would lead investigators right to them. Ariana's service weapon was never recovered. It was sold shortly after the murder, passed from hand to hand in Chicago's underground market. But the evidence left behind, the shell casings, the surveillance videos, the cell phone data, and the credit cards from earlier robberies, would be enough to bring all 4 suspects to justice. Within hours of Ariana Preston's murder, Chicago police detectives launched a massive investigation. They knew they were looking for multiple suspects, and they had to move fast. Investigators started collecting evidence from the crime scene. They found 11 9mm casings scattered across Ariana's front lawn. 2 of those casings came from her service weapon, confirming she had fired back at her attackers. But the other 9 casings told a different story. They came from the suspect's guns. Detectives also pulled video from pod cameras, the city's network of surveillance cameras placed throughout Chicago. The footage showed the stolen red Kia circling the block before the shooting. It captured the moment the suspects jumped out and ran toward Ariana. It showed them fleeing the scene. Cell phone data became another key piece of evidence. Joseph Brooks' phone pinged off a cell tower near 83rd and Blackstone at the exact time of the murder. His location data placed him at the scene. Investigators also found credit cards inside the Dodge Avenger, the car driven by the 2 women who accompanied the suspects earlier that night. Those credit cards belonged to one of the robbery victims from earlier in the evening. DNA evidence was collected from the burned Kia. Even though the suspects tried to destroy the car, forensic teams were able to recover traces that linked them to the vehicle. But the biggest break in the case came from 16-year-old Jalen Frazier himself. Later that evening, Frazier called a friend. He was excited, almost bragging. He asked his friend if he had seen the news about a police officer being killed. Then he said something shocking. "It was my work."
Anytime you can shoot somebody and say, that was my work, what kind of human would say that about another human being?
His friend asked what he meant. Frazier explained that he and 3 others had been out robbing people. They saw a single woman in her car and decided to rob her, but the woman shot at them. One of the guys he was with shot back and killed her. Frazier didn't realize his friend was horrified. The friend immediately went to the police and told them everything. Detectives asked the friend to call Frazier again, this time with them listening. The friend put the call on speakerphone. During the conversation, Frazier made more admissions about the robberies and the shooting. He revealed details that had not been released to the public. Frazier's mother also played a major role in his arrest. When she learned what her son had done, she made the difficult decision to turn him in to the police. Frazier was taken into custody at the same 5th District station where Ariana had worked. The 2 women who drove the suspects around that night also cooperated with investigators. Both identified the suspects in photo arrays. They provided testimony to a grand jury describing the events of that night in detail. One of the women had initially drawn attention when police tried to tow her car from the crime scene, and she became upset. Detectives questioned her, and she eventually helped identify the other suspects. As investigators dug deeper, they discovered that all 4 suspects had criminal histories. Each one had been convicted of robbery as juveniles. They were repeat offenders, already known to the system. By Wednesday, May 10, 2023, all 4 suspects were in custody and charged with first-degree murder. The news of Ariana Preston's murder sent waves of grief through Chicago. Her family, friends, and colleagues were devastated. The city had lost one of its brightest young officers. Ariana's mother, Dion Moon, spoke publicly for the first time at a prayer vigil held outside Area 2 headquarters. More than 500 people attended. Police officers, community members, and city officials all gathered to honor Ariana's memory. Through tears, Moon said, "To think that I have to bury my baby, and I poured so much into her, but God is good, though." She described her daughter as someone who loved her job and her co-workers. She was a goal setter. She wrote everything down that she wanted to do, and she did everything she wanted to. Moon also spoke about the suspects. "I felt sorry for them because obviously nobody told them they were loved. Nobody told them you can do anything, as I constantly preached to my daughter." But when it came to justice, her message was clear. "Justice to me is life. A life sentence. That's justice for us." Ariana's father also spoke, emphasizing the importance of seeking justice for his daughter. He thanked the city for its support and expressed his family's determination to see the case through to the end. Commander Tyrone Pendarvis of the 5th District shared a powerful story about Ariana's character. He said that on the day she died, Ariana had made one arrest. When that person found out what happened to her, they broke down crying. That speaks to the credit of Officer Preston, Pendarvis said. The Fraternal Order of Police released a statement calling Ariana a shining example of the future of our department. They added, "Everyone that knew her says they are better people because of it." Mayor Lori Lightfoot issued a statement commending the Chicago Police Department for their quick work in apprehending the suspects. She called them violent repeat offenders and praised detectives for removing them from the streets. Her dedication to justice and her commitment to serving this city will live forever, the mayor said. Ariana's funeral was held the following week. A large group of police officers filled the church, standing in uniform to honor their fallen colleague. Family members, friends, and community members packed the pews. It was a heartbreaking goodbye to a young woman who had so much more to give. The murder of Officer Ariana Preston raises a painful question. How did 4 teenagers end up committing such a violent crime? All 4 suspects, Travell Breland, Joseph Brooks, Jaquan Buchanan, and Jalen Frazier, had been convicted of robbery as juveniles. They were repeat offenders before they even turned 20. The system knew about them, but it failed to stop them. So what went wrong? During the court hearing, one observer said, "I felt sorry for those boys because nobody obviously didn't pour into them. Nobody told them that they were loved." Ariana's mother echoed this sentiment. Despite her grief, she expressed sympathy for the suspects, saying, "Nobody told them they were loved. Nobody told them you can do anything, as I constantly preach to my daughter."
But as I said in that courtroom today, the people I really felt sorry for was those boys. I felt sorry for them because nobody obviously didn't pour into them. Nobody told them that they were loved. Nobody told them that you can do anything, like I constantly preach to my daughters.
These young men grew up without the support, mentorship, and opportunities that could have changed their paths. They turned to crime instead of education. They chose violence instead of hope. The fact that all 4 had prior convictions shows that the justice system had multiple chances to intervene. But juvenile convictions didn't stop them. They were back on the streets, committing more crimes. There were no programs to redirect them, no mentors to guide them, no consequences strong enough to make them change. Communities also play a role. When young people don't see positive role models, when they grow up surrounded by violence and poverty, crime becomes normalized. Breaking that cycle requires investment in education, job training, and support systems. Ariana Preston dedicated her life to being that positive force in her community. She believed in building trust and showing young people a better way, but she was killed by the very people she was trying to help. What do you think could have prevented this tragedy? Share your thoughts below. The death of Officer Ariana Preston didn't have to happen. So how do we prevent tragedies like this in the future? Young people need support before they turn to crime. Programs that offer mentorship, education, and job training can give at-risk youth a different path. When teenagers have positive role models and real opportunities, they're less likely to end up in the justice system. All 4 suspects had prior convictions as juveniles. That was a warning sign. The system had a chance to step in and change their direction, but it didn't. Ariana Preston understood the importance of connection. She didn't just enforce the law, she built relationships, she listened, she cared. When communities trust the police, they work together to solve problems. Officers like Ariana prove that law enforcement can be a force for good. We need more officers like her, and we need communities that support them. The suspects used guns with extended magazines. One weapon even had a switch that made it fully automatic. These weapons are designed to kill, and they're too easy for young people to get. Stronger laws and better enforcement can help keep guns out of the wrong hands. Communities also need to educate young people about the real consequences of gun violence. Police officers risk their lives every day. They need proper training, resources, and support to do their jobs safely. Ariana's death is a reminder of the dangers officers face. Even when they're off duty, the 4 suspects were charged with first-degree murder and denied bail. They will face the consequences of their actions. Justice for Ariana means holding them accountable and ensuring they can't hurt anyone else. If you believe in building safer communities, hit like and subscribe. Let's keep this conversation going. Officer Ariana Preston was only 24 years old when her life was taken. But in those 24 years, she accomplished more than most people do in a lifetime. She earned a college degree. She was days away from receiving her master's from Loyola University. She served her community with honor for 3 years. She touched countless lives with her kindness, her empathy, and her dedication. Ariana wanted to join the FBI. She wanted to make an even bigger impact on the world. She had dreams, goals, and a future full of promise. All of that was stolen in a matter of seconds. Her mother said it best, "I had a beautiful daughter that I know deserves justice. She's supposed to be in a courtroom. Well, here I am. I'm in the courtroom for her." The Chicago Police Department ruled Ariana's death a line of duty death, ensuring her family receives the benefits and recognition she deserves. Her legacy will live on in the officers she inspired, the community she served, and the people whose lives she changed. The Fraternal Order of Police said the loss of such youth, grace, and determination will leave a void felt forever. Ariana Preston was a light in a dark world. She believed in justice, in service, and in making her city a better place. Her story is a reminder that we must protect those who protect us, and that we must do more to stop violence before it destroys more lives. Rest in peace, Officer Ariana Preston. Your sacrifice will never be forgotten. If this story moved you, please subscribe, share it, and leave a comment, and remember her name. Thank you for watching.